Under old business, case number 16082. Heat Treating LLC, John McCormack, manager for special permit floodplain to construct a new 6-story, 72-unit residential building on premise number 31 Newbury Street, 26 Densmore Street. The applicant and representative here.
Bob Prentice called, he's on his way.
Is that his case?
Yep.
All right, we'll call that in a while.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon, good evening.
Oh, never mind.
Christopher Harrington, I represent 31 Newbury Street and 26 Densmore Street. My client, Industrial Heat Treating LLC, John McCormack is the manager of the LLC. This is an application for a special permit for multifamily in the Business C zone and also a special permit floodplain. If you notice the ZBA application, the dimensional requirements, this project does not need any variances. This project complies with the dimensional requirements of the city in every respect. We have a 51,000 square foot lot. The FAR of this project is 2.05, the maximum is 3.5. It's only 58% of what the maximum allowable density would be on this site. It's 6 stories, 60 feet, which also complies. We have 715 square feet of land per unit. 500 square feet is what's required. We also meet all the building setbacks. We have more than double the amount of green space. 100 square feet is required in Business C. We have 210 square feet of green space on this project. And we have 118 parking spaces, 108 are required. So we have 10 more spaces than what's required by the ordinance. So we're here only on the floodplain issues and the special permit to have a residential use in a Business C zone. With me this evening is John McCormack. He's here, the manager of Heat Treating LLC. If you have any questions for him, he's here for you. Fred Geisel is our civil engineer with CEC, Civil Environmental Consultants. Arthur Chu is our architect. Jack Yolen is our traffic engineer. And William Baird is here. He's a professional engineer, and he's our LSP. He's a licensed site professional, and he's our environmental engineer because this site is a brownfield. So again, this project is Business C zone. It's 103 units by right on a 51,500 square foot lot. We're proposing 72 units, significantly less than the maximum. 6 stories, 118 parking spaces, and also significantly less than the maximum FAR. This is a contaminated site. The current landowner is in bankruptcy, and they don't have the resources to complete this cleanup. There was a cleanup done in 2002, but it was incomplete. It wasn't finished, and the DEP rejected the final closure of that site back in 2002. Additional testing was done in 2012, but due to financial constraints, the company did not have the money to pay to finish cleaning up this site. So we're proposing to bring on William Baird as our licensed site professional. He has done work this year and in the end of 2016 and 2017 to test the site, to compare what's there today with what was there years ago. And also he's come up with a scope of work for what needs to be done to actually clean this site up. So the place where we are right now as far as the environmental contamination is the property's in bankruptcy, so no permit, there's no money, and there's no cleanup. So that's where we are. We need to get a permit in place so that a commercial lender will lend money to the developer to buy the property and finance the cleanup of this site. This building, as I said, 72 units, 6 stories, 60 feet. The first 2 floors of the building are a parking garage, and the top 4 floors are units. 24 one-bedroom units, 44 two-bedroom units, and there are 4 three-bedroom units. I'd like to first introduce Fred Geisel, who's our civil engineer on the site, to talk about the site, and then I have some more comments about the Conservation Commission and a few other things. Thank you.
Thanks, Council.
Fred?
Thanks, Chris. My name is Frederick Geisel, Geisel. I'm a professional civil engineer working with civil environmental consultants in PD. The first plan I showed here is the existing building, the existing site. And virtually all the site is built upon. The building was up in a few locations right up to the property line. And Most of the rest of the area is covered with parking areas or site things with tanks, etc. And the proposed site will be substantially less in terms of coverage of the land. There'll be a lot more of green space around the perimeter. The front area on Newbury Street, a significant amount of green space on the sides of the building, and as Chris said, it will meet all of the setback requirements of the zoning. We'll have the majority of the parking spaces will be interior, in the covered garages, 2 floors. Provide additional spaces which are required above the requirement, and there'll be some spaces out here for visitors, et cetera, to come into the building. Number of entrances here, on the other side, over here on Densmore Street. There'll be an entrance onto Densmore Street with an entrance into the lower level garage. Very slight grade change from Densmore Street up into this area here, the lower level of the garage. This is where Densmore Street is wider. It narrows down to a 15-foot wide paved and unpaved areas beyond here. But we'll be coming in and out at where the street is wider. On the opposite side, on Newbury Street, we'll have a ramp from Newbury Street up into the second level of the garage. Starts out a little bit higher level on Newbury Street, and we go the ramp to the second floor. This ramp will be heat treated so that it'll melt snow in the winter time, because it's a relatively steep ramp, so we'll make sure that's completely free of ice and snow. There'll be grading in here, kind of the main front entrance, which will be in this area, which will be where the elevators are. You know, people coming in from the street who may park along the street would come into the building. We're also going to put a sidewalk the full length of the building on the property, on the outside of public street, because Newbury Street is fairly narrow right of way. It's only 33 feet wide. So to keep all that whole area for traffic and people to park, we're moving a sidewalk up here off of the property, and we'll even have a handicap area here where someone can pull up a bus or a van, picking up people and running them off, and then there's a ramp that goes up into the building, meeting all handicap requirements. We've done the hydrant flow test for the water, and we're going to be replacing the water line on Newbury Street with a larger diameter line coming all the way from Newbury Street, from Hancock Street, all the way down, and then loop it around the building and tie it to the existing main, which is on Densmore Street. So it'll be continuous, water loop, no dead ends. Replacing the hydrants. I think there's one hydrant on Newbury Street up there. We're replacing the hydrants, so we'll have all new hydrants and a new main. The building will be completely sprinklered, so we won't have any issues with fire protection. We're also tying in the sewer on Newbury Street. There's a fairly flat sewer on Densmore Street. We're not going to tie into that. Some parts of the building actually discharged onto Densmore Street sewer and came around the building. We're going to discharge onto Newbury Street where we have adequate capacity for the sewer line. The gas line we brought into the building, so we'll have basically the full complement of all the utilities will be upgraded. So we're keeping some of the stormwater infiltration will be taken care of on site with infiltrators, and then discharge, infiltration in the ground and then discharge. If there's any excess flow from a major storm, an event like today, a nor'easter, you might have a little extra flow. But it'll be a lot less than was there before, because we have a lot less impervious surfaces. We have not as much parking, and certainly the building size is reduced. Some of the locations of the stormwater will depend on the site cleanup to make sure everything is cleaned up. We don't want to put stormwater into the ground, or if we have still a residual contamination in there.
don't think anything else.
And Arthur Chu is the architect for this project.
Thank you. This building is, from the Newbury Street elevation is five stories, and on the Densmore side, 6 stories. There's 2 levels of parking, so I think that's 2 different levels. What we've done is 18 units per floor. We have a mix of rooms between 900 and 1,569 square foot units. There are 24 one-bedroom units, 44 two-bedroom units, and 4 three-bedroom units in the project. And what we've done, we have an elevation or a rendering here coming off the bridge to see the scale of it compared to the surrounding buildings. Even though it's a fairly large building, within the context, it's not too much.
And we also have William Baird, who's our licensed site professional, to talk about the environmental remediation.
Hi, my name's William Baird. I live at 111 Summer Street in Situate. I'm a licensed site professional and a registered engineer. This is a brownfield site, and I have a little handout that can show you what can happen when you have a brownfield site with the did I just run out of pictures? No, I could not. We can share. So, I apologize. Sincerely. We were originally doing some work on the site. Took over from VHB, a large civil engineering firm, and started working for the industrial heat treating in Davis, who had the property. When the economy crashed, her business crashed. And so this is a plan showing you what we learned when we were working for Lynn, and the current developer has asked us to start finding out what's going on with the property. And would you like one also? As you can see, the levels of contamination have subsided significantly from 2013 to 2016. This will happen with a site like this because in the ground there are naturally occurring microorganisms that destroy what we would consider to be toxic chemicals. And the contamination that was original on the site was perchloroethylene, which is dry cleaning fluid, trichloroethylene, which is used to degrease metals, and then there were some petroleum products because they had an underground lift and had petroleum products on the site. We need to do a lot more work before we decide what we're going to do on this site. And this is a report that I presented to your planning board, your Board of Health, and also to Joanne Fagan, who is the section chief for the Northeast region for brownfields sites. The DEP is very concerned about sites that are contaminated with chlorinated solvents. And from my point of view, that's a good thing because we will be working with Joanne as we go forward, cleaning up the site And on petroleum sites, you don't get that benefit. The DEP lets you go, the LSP files the final report for the cleanup. The DEP has 5 years to audit the site. They are required by regulation to audit 20% of all sites that are closed in Massachusetts. And recently they have concentrated on the chlorinated sites, petroleum not being as serious a contamination as the chlorinateds. In this report, you'll see many, many ways that chlorinated sites can be cleaned up. The most popular is called in situ chemical oxidation. And what we do is we basically put in hydrogen peroxide, which is one of the common oxidants. And what it does is it breaks apart the chlorinated solvents. The chlorine becomes chlorides, and then the petroleum products that are left are destroyed by either by the chemical oxidation or by microorganisms that are in the soils and the groundwater. We need your, obviously the client needs your approval to go ahead, otherwise this site will remain the way it is. Joanne Fagan is so interested in this, she actually came down and met with your Board of Health and the Planning Board to, from my point of view, encourage the city to go forward so that money would be available to clean up the site. Any questions at all?
No, but nothing came from, there's nothing in the wetlands that said from this site, correct?
To our knowledge, there's nothing in the wetlands, but we do have to do an investigation in the wetlands. And I made that representation to your Conservation Commission. When we were first on this site, we did some work bordering the wetlands. And I met with your agent at that time. And basically, he said, just go ahead and do what you have to do to be sure that the site gets cleaned up.
Currently, it's not leaching, it's pretty steady where it's staying right there.
It doesn't appear. Now, the only information we have are from monitoring wells, which are groundwater, allow us to test the groundwater. They were put in by a consultant more than 10 years ago. So we're probably going to put in at least another 20 wells to define this site. And until we put in the wells and we get the information back, I don't know how to clean up the site.
They want one of those reports for our file, please.
Absolutely, sure.
It looks like the majority of the tanks or the lifts, they're all been removed at this point, right?
There are some tanks that were abandoned in place,
Okay.
and we made representation that we're, to Joanne, that we're going to take those
Remove
out.
those, okay.
Right.
Are they empty?
Well, when they were abandoned in place, they were supposed to be emptied, internally inspected, and I can't comment on. Thank you. What was that?
Any other questions?
Discussion regarding the siting of the building on the lot. Will the area be covered by the parking and the foundation, or will it be exposed after it's constructed?
Well, in Massachusetts, there's soil regulations, S1, S2, S3. S1 being the most stringent for residential use. There's groundwater 1, groundwater 2, and groundwater 3. Groundwater 1 is drinking water. Groundwater 2 is groundwaters that could be contaminated with chemicals that could create vapor intrusion. In other words, these are volatile chemicals like gasoline, like the PCE and the TCE. So even in the groundwater, those chemicals will give off vapors into the soils that eventually can go into a reservoir. One of the things that's great about this is 2 levels of open air parking. So we're not going to get any vapors, no matter what happens, into the residence. But before we do that, underneath the lower parking level, we will seal with HDPE, high-density polyethylene blanket. And under that blanket, we're going to put pipes in stone and have a ventilation system. Technically, it's called sub-slab vaporization or ventilation. Until we're satisfied, even though I can close out the site, say we meet all the groundwater regulations, we meet all the soil regulations, there could still be something there that we don't know about. So we put in this sub-slab depressurization system with a vacuum pump, granulated activated carbon, and we discharge it to the atmosphere. We check for a period of years the gases or the vapor or the air that's coming from under the building to know that we have completely cleaned up the site. Because by creating that vacuum, even with the groundwater, we change the concentration gradient. And so as you keep pulling a vacuum, these chlorinated solvents want to keep coming into the soils and into our system. That's the final precaution to make sure we've got everything done. We've covered all the bases.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, this project has to be approved by you, the zoning board. It was approved by the Conservation Commission. We filed a notice of intent back in November, and we received an order of conditions approving this project. This project is a redevelopment project of an existing degraded site. It's an improvement over existing conditions, and because we're remediating the site, we're also going to be protecting the wetlands and the Ponset River. The project's in full compliance with the coastal flood zone, as well as DEP stormwater management policy and FEMA's regulations for construction of the floodplain. As Mr. Geisel said, we're replacing the utilities in Newbury Street, bringing down bigger water lines. So we've got new utilities in the streets, improvements to the public ways. We're going to be paving Newbury Street to the end, at least to this point, to where our building ends, and improving Newbury Street. We're installing the sidewalk. Mr. Geisel talked about the sidewalk. I think the most important point about the sidewalk is that we're putting the sidewalk on our property, so that the entire 35-foot way, which is Newbury Street, is not taken up by any of the sidewalk. So we're going to put the sidewalk on our property with a sidewalk easement to the city, so the street stays as wide as it possibly can be, so we don't narrow that at all. And we're also, the rear entrance to the building, we have walkways that come around the building. Our rear entrance here, there is a sidewalk on Densmore Street, on this side of Densmore. So from our rear door, there's a new crosswalk that goes across the street to that sidewalk, and then that sidewalk takes pedestrians all the way up to Hancock Street. So the permits that we need from you, we need a floodplain special permit, and we also need a special permit from residential in the Business C zoning district. We believe that this project meets all the requirements for both special permits. It addresses community needs. It's going to clean up contaminated site. It's going to provide new, safe, energy-efficient housing for the city of Quincy and increase the revenue for the city of Quincy. Traffic and pedestrian safety has been addressed through the plans and through site plan review. All the parking is on site in this 2-level parking garage. New sidewalks and crosswalks for pedestrians. And our traffic impact has been studied by Mr. Gillen, and he's determined that this project will not create a problem for Hancock Street and for the intersections at Densmore and Newbury. It does not have adequate utilities now. It will with our project, with the new lines that we're installing as part of this project. And in terms of the neighborhood character, this is a commercial industrial neighborhood. This is going to be a beautiful new residential building. And so I don't think it's going to damage the character of the old commercial buildings in the neighborhood. As far as the natural environment, this is going to be an improvement to the natural environment, especially for the buffer zone to the Ponset River, as well as the buffer zone to the wetlands. And on the fiscal impact, it's a positive project because it's going to provide tax revenue for the city of Quincy. All of the construction on site is above base flood elevation. There's no living area below base flood elevation. And so it complies with the floodplain special permit. If you have any questions, we're here.
Also, you know, you're gonna have the heated driveways and stuff. What are you doing for renewable energy in the building?
As far as energy efficiency, the entire building is going to comply with the new stretch energy code, and so all of the facilities in the building are going to be high efficiency and modern from that respect. We haven't talked about solar panels or anything like that.
Good discussion probably having a building that size.
Especially with all your utilities for the owner, you know? All the lighting, outside lighting, inside lighting, parking lot lighting. You have to take care of all that. Any questions you have?
I have none.
No, I'm all set.
One question regarding your traffic study. I haven't seen the traffic study yet, Council, but I understand from, as you enter the Newbury, the Hancock Street to take a right, to merge into traffic, there's a ramp coming down from the highway.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tough to merge at that point. What does your traffic study say about that?
Jack Dillon is here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to be concise and really quick, and let's just say the ramp itself coming down, that accommodates, that carries about 17,000 vehicles per day. The Hancock Street coming underneath the bridge by the Adams coming out there, that carries about 2,550. So both together, right at Densmore, Densmore Street, that's about 20,000 vehicles per day. And this site here is going to generate about 44 trips in the morning with 9 inbound and 35 outbound. And in the evening peak hours, it'll be about 42 inbound and 22 outbound for a total of 64. Now, because we're coming out with the lower level on I think it's Densmore Street and the upper level coming out onto Newbury, we split those roughly in half. I did it by the proportion to the number of parking spaces, but nevertheless, roughly it's about the same. So you're going to see about 17 out on each of the streets in the morning peak hour, which is equivalent to roughly one every 4 to 5 minutes coming out. And then the afternoon peak hour with about 22 going in, that's about 1 every 3 minutes coming in on either of the two streets. So the actual impact is not all that much. And the 84 units themselves altogether, those streets, that'll be about 559 vehicles per day over 24 hours. I had to look at the speed too. Hancock Street had a speed of about 37 miles an hour with an 85th percentile design speed about 40. And the bridge itself, it was a little bit less. I thought it'd be a lot higher, but it wasn't. The design speed is about 38 miles an hour coming down the ramp because they know there's a signal at the bottom of the hill. And the crashes weren't as much as I thought they'd be either. There is a stop sign coming out of Hancock Street at the ramp. Hancock has to stop and yield for all that traffic coming down the ramp that's either going straight ahead or merging over to get into the right turn lane to get on the Newport Avenue. So the volumes, the crashes, the rate was really low compared to what I thought it was going to be, but we did look at that.
Second question, for the residents when they're coming home, I just can't remember whether they have to bang a quick right-hand turn there, or do they have to go around by 2 Hancock and take the local street to get back home?
Because Newbury Street is actually south of the ramp. During the off-peak hours, it wouldn't be that bad to, go over and take the right turn into Newbury. Densmore, all the time, you have to go around the horseshoe and then take a right turn into Densmore. What I found was, when I did some of the counts, is in the morning peak hour, there really weren't all that many coming around Hancock Street, But the ones coming down the ramp, a lot of them shot right for Newbury Street and went into the parking lot, through the parking lot, and then into Newport Ave Extension. And some of the people in that office building, the registry office building there actually is an opening there. So what they do, some of those will come out onto Newbury Street and they'll wait for a gap and shoot over for the horseshoe turn and then get on the ramp to go up on the Newport Bridge. And they don't have to go down to Enterprise or Heritage and take the U-turn, and they don't have to wait at the light, out there. But the signal. And really, the signal operates as well as it can, but obviously during the morning peak hour, we have gridlock there, not because the signal can't process the cars, it's only because the ramp is backed up into the intersection, you know? But we put a couple signs up saying no turn on red, and that helped a lot in that manner. So I don't know if there's anything else.
I know some residents at the, near the Adams Inn, and they have trouble making that merge. And a lot of times they'll go left on red to get up onto the highway because cars coming from Newport Ave are going so quickly. It's a very short light. And so when cars get backed up there, it could be problematic.
Yeah, we could say, you know, I talk like a silver person. I can make suggestions at this point, you know. It's actually, in the old days, I used to go out and change the time, because it's actually a state signal because it's from the state right away there. But, you know, there are some changes that I'm recommending, and hopefully they'll be able to implement some of those.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time?
Just had one on, just show some parallel on-street parking.
Yes.
Is that gonna be restricted in any fashion? Is there gonna be some?
No, that'll be available to anybody who has business on.
So are you including that in the tally for the parking?
In the traffic count?
No, in your parking,
No.
Okay.
Our parking is, the 2 levels of the garage.
Yeah, so those are separate numbers.
Plus these spaces.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
the
when-
8 or 9 that you have up front, that's not included?
These are out back.
Yeah,
Those are outside out back on Densmore.
yeah.
And that's guest parking for this building. And we're not counting any parking on
Okay.
Newbury Street.
Okay, thanks.
One more way there, trash and, like moving trucks and stuff?
Yeah, the dumpsters are right here on the back side of the building. And moving vans will, Densmore Street is wide to this point, and it gets very narrow after this point. So moving vans will be able to come to the back of the building here, they'll be able to sit right in this is a guest parking area, so they can stop right here and be able to load and unload, and they can push the stuff right through the garage to the elevator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak in favor? Step forward, state your name, please. Is there anyone else? Come right up.
Hi, my name is Brendan Flynn. I'm the property manager for 28 Newbury Street. I've been involved in this property, either living there or being the manager for the last 17 years. The heat treat plant that's there is an eyesore. And all it is, I mean, been a lot of problems with it over the years too, with the tanks relieving pressure into the atmosphere and everything else. We've had, I mean, so it's been ungodly with all the trucks that came down to unload at different hours. I mean, we've had a lot of problems over the years. I don't know if any of you have ever driven over Densmore Street. You need a 4-wheel drive vehicle to get through some of the potholes. I personally have spoken with the developer and the attorney, Chris. They've reached out backwards for us. They've been more than accommodating for any of the things we've needed. And all I see is nothing but improvements to the site. And I'm all in favor of it. They're great people to work with, and I don't think you're gonna have a problem with them. I suggest that, let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Does anyone else want to speak in favor? Second call, third call. Call that public hearing closed. Mr. Duca, do you have any comments before I continue?
I just want to report to the board that this is one of the most extensively reviewed projects by third-party reviewers for the city. The applicant has been very cooperative and open to all the suggestions by the third-party engineers. Jim Fatsis, the planning director, has been in touch with the DEP as far as the cleanup to verify that they're going to be involved with the process as well. So I would say the board should feel confident that the applicant is doing everything they can to mitigate all the issues.
Thank you, Mr. Duca. DPW letter, it's just talking about the need to amend the residential use in that instead of business C. No other comments. Is there anyone opposed or undecided? Opposed or undecided, first call, second call. Third call closed. Do I have a motion, please? I'll be voting in favor. Should make any comments. I think it's gonna be nice that it's cleaned up and spending the money to get that stuff cleaned up. And thank you for doing that. Any comments, Mr. Rich?
Sure. I'm not sure if I like clean stuff. No, I like
What do you mean?
I like dirty stuff.
Cleanup is the main point. Yeah. I don't see anybody coming along with, match this cleanup.
In favor?
In favor. Have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, in matter number 16-082, Heat Treating LLC, John McCormack, manager for a special permit floodplain to construct a 6-story, 72-unit residential building on the premises number 31 Newbury Street and 26 Densmore Street in Quincy. Made a motion to grant the special permit and the floodplain.
Second.
On the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you very much.